So the story begins with a young girl who's walking home from school, and as she's going back home, out of the corner of her eye, she sees these weird tentacle things, like an eldritch horror type deal, falling out of like these fallen trash can, and she looks in and she sees a really cute looking octopus thing, right? She's already braver than me, because if I would have saw something like that, my first move would have been to run away, but she's built different, right? Being the decent person that she is, she has some leftover bread from her school to give to the creature, and he's extremely happy about it. Oh yeah, the creature can talk, by the way. We learn that the young girl's name is Shizuka, and the creature that she's talking to, his name is Nihonku. Some sort of really strange alien name that I can't pronounce, and neither could she. So, since he looks like an octopus, she decides to call him Takopi. So Takopii and Shizuka slowly begin to build a friendship. In order to repay the debt he feels like he has to Shizuka, he offers her the ability to fly, because you see, Takopii, coming from an alien planet like he does, he has all sorts of nifty little crafts and figures and things that from this world would be considered impossible, but for him, they are very much a everyday use thing, and that he wants to just show his appreciation by showing her some new things that she probably hasn't experienced before. After offering her the ability to fly though, Shizuka says, nah, I'm gonna stay down here. And he's surprised by this, because he thinks that like it's fun to fly, right? Like who wouldn't want to fly? And Shizuka tells Takopii, my American came out there a little bit. She tells Takopii that even if I fly, nothing will change down here. And this is our first glimpse into sort of the inner workings of Shizuka, right? Even from the verse beginning panels, we can tell that Shizuka is a very serious and kind of depressed seeming figure. She doesn't really have a smile on her face, and just this one phrase that she tells Takopii tells us a lot about her personality. She's very realistic, probably more than she even should be for a young girl her age, because think about that. What fourth grader, if offered the ability to fly, man, like your favorite superheroes and people that you see on TV, what fourth grader is going to deny that? But Shizuka-chan did, because she knows that no matter how much she does fly around, things will remain the same in her life. And Takopii is really naive. He just assumes that because she said no to this, oh, well, humans must already be able to fly, so it's not that big of a deal to her. So he tries in his mind to figure out, okay, well, what other crafts or things can I do to repay her? I want to show her something great. So next up on the list, Takopii comes the next day to talk with Shizuka, because they've kind of built up a routine together, right? Like they become friends a little bit. And while they hang out together the next day, they see these group of school kids who are walking past, and Shizuka immediately takes Takopii and says they have to hide. As the girls walk past, we can overhear a conversation about them tearing up a pencil board and them enjoying basically bullying one of the other girls at school. This sort of runs together because from the previous day, we saw Shizuka's own pencil board that was all torn up, and we can make the assumption at this point that these groups of girls are the ones that are giving Shizuka a hard time. Takopii sees these girls walking past, and he states that, oh, they look like they're having fun, and asks if they're playing a game. And Shizuka replies, I guess they are. Shortly after this, Takopii introduces the next tool that he wants to show to Shizuka. This time, it's the happy camera. So Takopii takes a picture with Shizuka, and right before he can tell her the function of the camera, Shizuka gets up and tells her that she has to go to get a new pencil board, and she's going to see him the next day. Takopii remarks on how busy Shizuka is all the time, and states that no matter what, he's going to find a way to make her happy. On the following day, Shizuka tells Takopii that she can't stay for very long, that she has to go feed Chappie. We learn that Chappie is Shizuka's dog, and in this moment we see Shizuka happier than we've seen her at all throughout the story. It is clear that Chappie brings her a significant amount of happiness, and Shizuka also tells Takopii that as long as she has him, she doesn't need anyone else. Takopii offers to take Shizuka to the Happy Planet, get on a spaceship, and they'll go right to where he lives. But Shizuka says that she can't go anywhere. She remarks that she's stranded, she can't go to his planet, she can't go to Papa's place, that she can't go anywhere. Takopii vows in front of Shizuka to make her smile super wide. Shizuka runs up to Takopii, tells him that he doesn't smell like anything, and that she's going to go home now. Although she never states it, Shizuka is clearly happy that Takopii cares so much about her, and you can tell that their friendship is strengthened. The following day, however, we see Shizuka more downtrodden than we've seen her at all throughout the story. She is badly beaten and bruised. Takopii doesn't really know about harm or violence or anything like that, so he sees Shizuka and remarks that her face looks different. She tells Takopii that she had a fight with her friends. Takopii introduces the new tool for the day, the makeup ribbon. And he tells her that if you connect this with your friend's pinky fingers, you'll be able to make up right away. Takopii tells her how durable it is and how it can be stretched infinitely, and you can make friends far and wide. And just from the panels and the body language of Shizuka, we can tell that at this point she seems to have lost all hope. Shizuka tells Takopii that that's nice and asks her if he'll lend her that ribbon. Takopii remarks on the rules that he was given, recollecting how he was told to never give their tools over to aliens. But Takopii thinks about how much he loves and trusts Shizuka, so he decides, yeah, I can lend you this ribbon, no problem, and gives it to her. A little bit of time passes, and Takopii wonders if Shizuka was able to make up with her friends and goes to her house to check up on her and see how things are going. Takopii opens the door to Shizuka's house and sees a very grisly sight. Shizuka hanging from the rafters in her home. Takopii runs up to check on Shizuka, asking her that maybe she tied it to the pillar by accident. And he attempts to talk to Shizuka, trying to explain to her, like, this is how you properly use it. And he can be seen slowly poking at her shoes in one of the most heartbreaking moments in manga that I've read in an extremely long time. Shortly after, Takopii realizes that Shizuka has died. He begins to think about how he broke one of the happy rules and how now this was the consequence, and starts to feel extremely guilty. Takopii discusses how ingenious as the happy tools might be, no one has the ability to revive the dead. But then he reflects on one of the pictures they had taken previously with the happy camera. And unbeknownst to us till this time, we learn that the camera has a function. It can only save one photo at a time, but if you load it into the camera, you can return to the time that you took the picture. Takopii thinks about the human word for taking one's own life and asks questions like, why does this behavior exist? Why did Shizuka do this to herself? Takopii decides that he's going to find out. He wants to learn as much about Shizuka as he possibly can. And he wants to come up with a future where Shizuka doesn't have to pass away, and vows once again that tomorrow he's going to make Shizuka smile. The next scene cuts to Takopii and Shizuka sitting on the construction equipment where they took the photo originally. And rather than letting Shizuka go home like last time, he decides that he wants to go to school with her. And this is where Takopii begins to learn more about Shizuka's situation. In this chapter, Takopii begins to go to school with Shizuka. He disguises himself with a happy tool that appears only as a flower in Shizuka's hair, and this allows Takopii to observe his surroundings and see everything that goes on with Shizuka during the day. What he learns is that Shizuka is relentlessly bullied. At first, he doesn't understand this. He thinks that the other kids are just playing around. He thinks that maybe this is how humans communicate and things aren't out of the ordinary. As Takopii observes, he tries to do small things to fix the situation for Shizuka. He thinks that maybe by helping her out with her homework or helping her eat all of her food at lunch, these problems will be the thing that resolves her issues with the other students, mainly with Marina, who is the main bully, and will help her be happier so that the fate that she encountered in her previous life won't have to occur again. Takopii, seeing that his current methods aren't working, decides that the best thing that he could do now would be to switch places with Shizuka. Maybe if he's able to talk with Marina and they can kind of converse a little bit, that they can resolve their differences and her and Shizuka can be best friends and get over things. Takopii tells Shizuka to hide in the bathroom while he goes and has a one-on-one talk with Marina. He comes up to her, greets her friendly, and is immediately greeted himself with a slap in the face. Man, I really hate this character. Takopii remarks how he's never been touched like this, but he definitely found it unpleasant. But he continues anyway, speaking politely and asking Marina if they can talk and just see what things are going on and maybe what's wrong. Marina insults Takopii relentlessly, calling him a parasite and explaining that Shizuka is the last person she would ever have a discussion with. As the conversation continues on, Takopii becomes more afraid than he ever has been in his entire life. Marina's attitude, coupled with both her physical and verbal threats towards Shizuka, makes Takopii finally realize the terror that she's going through every day, and he can't help but run away. Takopii remarks how weak he is and excessively apologizes for not being able to help Shizuka more. He feels that the only thing that he can do is to call for help. So while Shizuka remains in the bathroom, he runs to the teacher and asks for help. The next scene, we see Takopi and Shizuka talking to one another, and Shizuka explains that she's extremely grateful for everything that Takopi has done. Shizuka talks about how she has noticed how much Takopi has helped her, doing things like providing answers to homework assignments, trying to talk to Marina for her. Takopi, driven by his guilt and love for Shizuka, makes her remark that from now on he will continue to do as much as he can for her and make it so that she doesn't have to die. Also during the scene, we are introduced to a young boy named Azuma-kun, who is the only student we see that is even remotely nice to Shizuka. He asks her about how she's doing, if she needs help in class, and if he wants her to bring up the incident that occurred in their next class meeting. Shizuka tells him that no, this is okay, and continues walking home. In the next scene, we cut to Marina's point of view. She seems to be walking in the home, and a woman that appears to be her mother is sitting at a table, telling Marina that her papa seems to have gone off to dinner with another woman. The woman asks if Marina is on her side still, and asks Marina to sit down and listen to what she has to say. In the final scene of the chapter, we can see Marina glaring out a window with a crazed and somewhat evil look in her eye, and I'm not gonna lie, man, this lady's low-key scary. And it cuts to a sleeping image of a Chappie and Shizuka laying in bed together. Shizuka at her most peaceful. So this chapter is a brutal one. So this is the day that in the past, Shizuka finds her end, right? This is the day that Shizuka dies normally. And this chapter details Takopi's attempts to make this fate not happen for Shizuka. He tries so many different things, but no matter what he attempts, it seems that on this day, Chappie inevitably bites Marina, and this leads to Chappie being taken to a dog pound where he's killed. And after Chappie's death, Shizuka follows shortly after. And no matter what things Takopi attempts to try in order to change the situation, Marina always seems to find Shizuka. And what Takopi realizes is that Marina is actively going out of her way to find Shizuka on this day. And for the life of him, Takopi cannot understand why. Us from an outside perspective know that Marina's hateful, right? We know that Marina has basically discovered that Chappie is Shizuka's only reason to live. It's her only lifeline, right? It's her main supporter and thing that she seems to care about. And Marina, being the person that she is, wants to take this away from Shizuka, so she's actively searching for her to see what she can do to sabotage this. On the 101st try, Takopi is able to make it so that Chappie still ends up biting Marina, but is allowed to go back to live with Shizuka's papa. At least that's what we're told. It's kind of ambiguous whether he's still going to the pound and is going to still end up being killed and everything, but this is what we're told from the story. So the good part from this is that there's still a bit of hope left, right? Shizuka still looks absolutely miserable and depressed. The situation is less than ideal, but with Chappie being alive, this makes it so that Shizuka feels like she has at least a little reason left to live. The next scene shows Marina in class with the cast and Shizuka returning to school. She survived the day, but she is being relentlessly bullied by Marina for her dog biting her and is being called all sorts of nasty insults, and Marina's insulting the dog. All the other students are looking at her like she's terrible and a worthless person, and overall she's in a pretty miserable state. Marina then tells Shizuka that she wants Shizuka to meet her somewhere tomorrow. As you can imagine, things are about to get pretty terrible. But the left turn this situation takes, man, I ain't see this coming. So Takopi and Shizuka follow Marina into the woods. Takopi is scared crapless because Marina's terrifying, right? She's got that crazy look in her eye. They're following her out into a secluded area, and there's no telling what's gonna happen now. So when they get out to where they stop, Marina begins physically and verbally assaulting Shizuka like crazy. Marina begins telling Shizuka the most hurtful things that she can possibly think of, telling her that she has no friends, that she's poor, that her dog's gone. That was the only person or thing that cared about her. So what reason does she have to live anymore? Shizuka at this point is on the brink, right? She was already feeling extremely depressed, but it's getting to the point now where she's about to go through a mental collapse. And through this verbal assault, we learn that Marina's father is messing around with Shizuka's mother, and this has caused big disruptions in her family. Marina feels like if Shizuka and Shizuka's family wasn't around, that she would have a regular home life, and that her mom would be able to get married to their dad, and they'd be able to live a normal, happy life together. Takopi thinks back on Shizuka's previous death. He decides that no matter how terrified he is, he cannot allow this to happen again, and feels like if he doesn't directly intervene, that this fate is going to be inevitable. So in the next moment, Takopi takes the camera and bashes Marina across the head with it. Well, shit. Apparently, Takopii is stronger than he looks, because the next scene we see Marina laid out with blood leaking from her head, lifeless. Takopii killed Marina. Takopii sees Marina's lifeless body and panics. He can't believe he did this. But when he tries to use the camera to go back in time, it doesn't work anymore. So now we are stuck in this timeline, right? Marina's dead, but unexpected to Takopii, Shizuka's happier than he's ever seen her. Shizuka tells Takopii that he's amazing. Shizuka remarks how she didn't believe in magic and that she thought that if Marina was gone, everything would be okay, but she never thought that this was possible. She's wished for this moment and says that it's just like magic. Shizuka thanks Takopii, telling her thank you for killing Marina for me. And thus, we come upon the reason for the title of the manga, Takopii's original sin. The class representative Azuma comes upon the scene and cannot believe his eyes. Shizuka tells Azuma that thanks to Takopii's magic, Marina's dead. Azuma asks what the hell is going on here, that he doesn't know what's happening, but asks Takopii why he would kill someone. Takopii asks Azuma if he's feeling tense and just says that everybody should try to be happy. Azuma is completely disgusted at this point, telling Takopii that someone just died and asks him why is he talking like that. Asks him if he's making fun of the situation. Azuma tells Shizuka that she's likely going to be locked up in juvie and that you can't just get away with murder like nothing happened. Azuma states that people try to get away with this stuff in novels and things like that by pinning the crime on another person. Shizuka says that, you know what? I guess I'll try it. Azuma looks at her in disbelief, saying like, I mean, you can't really do that. Like, I was only joking, that's the sort of stuff that only happens in stories. But Shizuka begins talking to Azuma and tells Azuma that he's the only person in the world that can help her. Azuma appears to be taken in by Shizuka and decides to help. Azuma picks up one of the happy tools found on the floor, and Takopii explains that it's the memory box. Takopii tells Azuma that you can preserve whatever you put inside of it. Things like pretty leaves and Azuma cuts them off saying whatever. They're gonna put Marina's body inside this thing, and this is where they're gonna hide it because they can change the size. And next, they tell Takopii that he's going to have to impersonate Marina while they get this whole situation figured out. Takopii asks him if they're sure that this is all right. Shizuka states that, hey, if you keep talking like that, you're gonna get us found out. Shizuka is really about this life. I was not expecting this turn of events when I was watching this whatsoever, but especially how Shizuka is just, she's ready for this. Like, she's down with the plan, and she's like, Takopii, I need you to stay solid and do your role, man. You gotta, you gotta help me on this. This caught me so off guard. And in the final scene, we can see what appears to be Marina's mom and dad fighting with one another, yelling back and forth, throwing things, hitting one another. And in the final panel, we can see Takopii getting hit in the head with something that Marina's father threw. And this is where Takopii no Genzai, aka Takopii's original sin, ends off. Crazy as hell, right? I told you guys it was a wild ride. This one is so good. As far as I know, this is where the translation ends up to this point, but this is a story absolutely worth keeping an eye on. If you guys like this format of video, give me a heads up. There's plenty of stories out there, and if you guys like these summaries, because I know it can be hard to sit down and read manga sometimes, let me know if you're up for these kind of videos, and we'll do a little bit more of that narration. All right, guys, that being said, if you don't mind, please hit my YouTube buttons, and I'll talk to you later.